Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with InsideTheU here for Miami's first spring practice. It was great. We were able to see 7 sessions. They go for about 20 in the 7 sessions we saw. The periods were in the indoor practice facility. Then they came out here and finished up the rest of their practice. They go about 20 periods. The way it works, a 2-hour practice. Typical stuff from the first spring practice, not in full pads. They're gonna go 3 practices this week, take a week off with spring break, and then resume with the other 12 practices, concluding with the spring game right next to me at Cobb Stadium on campus on April 13th. Okay, so let's get into some things that I saw today. It starts with quarterback Cam Ward. All eyes on him. I'll have a practice clip video that I'll post to the channel with how he looked in drills, some one-on-one situations. So I was definitely focused on him and how he looked. And there were a few things that stood out to me. And I think first off, he throws the ball well. He threw the ball well in drills. In those one-on-one situations, he did want to test the defense, test the secondary, throwing the ball deep, completed passes deep. He had good touch on his deep passes, which to me, as someone watching it, surely it makes you think that it's going to be something positive and something exciting with the Miami offense, that they can stretch the field with some of the weapons that they have at the receiver position. Some guys that I'll talk about in a little bit. But it was interesting hearing the players talk, and 4 players talked after practice in addition to Mario Cristobal. Cam didn't talk, but I was able to ask a few guys what they thought of what Cam was bringing to the team. And it's always interesting, obviously, about the wide receivers, what they think of them, and maybe this center connection. But I wanted to ask linebacker Wesley Bain what he thought, going against him. And Wesley Bain also talked about him. And the thing with Wesley said, and this is what we saw just in the drills, was he can make every throw. And I asked, medium, deep. He's like, yeah, essentially anything he wants to do. So he's definitely going to help out the offense in terms of maybe some downfield passing attack that they kind of missed a few times last year. So maybe we'll see them throw the ball deep a little bit more. Again, just first day. Hopefully we get to be out here as much as possible. And just being back out here today, we've not been able to be at practice since mid-August. So it was definitely good seeing a lot of the guys, not just Cam, but just being out here, being around the guys as they get ready for another season. So Wesley Bain said he's already starting to talk a little bit with Cam, and that he's going to get to the quarterback and wants to hit him. And he said Cam was kind of give it to him right back in terms of some banter there, and says, yeah, go ahead, that kind of a thing. So that's good to see a little competition. And Jaylen Rivers said Cam's one of these guys that's just a really talkative guy. It seems like, and this is what we've heard since he's been here, but Cam really fit in well in terms of getting along with his teammates, a vocal guy, hanging out with guys, and I think he's kind of bringing the team together, not just the offense, but seeing that connection with the defense as well so far. And I think it's going to be great, and definitely all eyes on Cam as he progresses in the spring in Shannon Dawson's offense, and essentially how he can help this offense win games. They got to win more games. They're definitely looking to do that after that 7-win season last year, looking to win more games than that this year, and it starts off with the big game against Florida. Another guy that I thought looked really good today that I want to speak about is Xavier Restrepo, the wide receiver, coming off a huge year last year. And I think even with the numbers he puts up, I think even sometimes he still gets doubted, of his abilities. And I think today, there were 3 big-time catches I thought he made. Maybe, and this could be something that just shows to his ability, some improvements that he looks like he could be even in store from what he did a year ago, but he goes deep on some 40, 50-yard touchdown passes on 2 different ways. He catches a big deep pass where, it looked like the defender was in pretty good coverage, but Xavier adjusted, came down with the catch, and hauled it in the end zone. So that was a big one. And then also, running by Powell, he showed his speed, running by the defender and caught a deep pass. So I thought that was interesting. Then it was something that really stood out to me that maybe not everybody else noticed, but I thought it was just a big play where, they're doing a lot of short passes, one-on-one stuff. Xavier catches a short pass, and typically it looks a little bit routine. However, Xavier, because of his footwork, getting out of the catch, it looked like a 5-yard catch, just the way he was able to kind of get moving forward, to get away, really create separation after the catch away from his defender, and just really took off. And I think that was something that was really impressive because, again, most of the time on these short passes, the way it works, you go down or you get touched or tackled or hit after about 5 yards, a 5-yard gain. But, just Xavier, just his ability to get off of defenders after the catch, I thought was good. And again, footwork was really impressive. Again, it's the footwork not just at the line of scrimmage and running routes, but again, after the catch And I thought that was really big, just as something small, something subtle that I noticed with watching Xavier today. Another receiver I definitely was paying attention to, obviously JoJo Trader, freshman, looked good. Nikar out here too. Good to see those guys. Trader I thought did well, making big catches, going over the top, showing his speed there. But I think all eyes this spring, and I think there was some buzz about him last spring or even the fall, but Isaiah Horton, Colby Young's gone and they need a guy to step in, and right now it looks like Isaiah Horton's going to be that guy on that top unit along with Xavier and Jacoby as it looks, and Isaiah's kind of stepping into it here. A couple years into the program, shown flashes, but this is a spring for him where he really has a chance to really emerge and really truly be a number 3 threat, with those other guys, or at least really be in the conversation as a guy that can make plays. And we've seen him, he's able to go downfield, has good size, and as long as he's staying in tune to everything that's going on, I think he can be a productive player this year. And I do, at this point, I definitely think those will be your 3 guys that you're looking at to be Miami's top receivers for the season. Again, Isaiah's got to, definitely step up because of what he did last year in terms of not an overly productive season. But again, Colby's out, Isaiah's in, number 2, kind of stepping in there as a big receiver, and I think he's a guy definitely to watch for this spring. And it was also great. I haven't talked about what Mario Cristobal had to say too much yet, but he talked about 10-15 minutes after practice. There are going to be about 10 guys or more that are going to be out with injuries this spring. This kind of happens every year. Nothing really to worry about at this point. But some guys will hopefully be able to return during spring ball and get some work in. They're definitely looking to do that. A full list of those players will be on an article on InsideTheU.com where you can check that out. But something that Mario said, and I'm writing an article about the offensive line, so I asked him about that competition because you're seeing new faces. Francis Mauineau is the guy that's injured, not going to be out there in the spring. So it gives Matthew McCoy at this point a time to step in there at right tackle, and then you're replacing Javion Cohen and Matt Lee at left guard and center. So who's going to step up? Samson Okunlola is a guy that I think a lot of people are excited about, and I asked Coach specifically about him, not just the battle, which he commented on, iron sharpens iron, that kind of a thing, but Samson, he said, looks good physically, and he felt like he was coming on late last season, coming back from his injury, and he said he looks good athletically. He was kind of fitting into that left guard spot, kind of rotating in right now with Lou Cristobal there. But, Samson's a guy that I think a lot of people had high hopes for. I certainly did, because I think he's a guy that can play tackle. Again, right now he's playing guard, but I think he's a guy, if he's doing well, maybe he's a guy that could be tackle as well. But I think just getting him in there with that top unit, getting a lot of good reps is important for him. But he's certainly, again, I mentioned a number of guys as we're talking about it here, but one of those guys to really watch for this spring, because you're hoping a guy like that can really take the next level of being a high quality player for Miami, regardless of what role he's in. Talented guy, you want to see that really translate onto the field. So definitely keep your eye on Samson this spring. And there's a lot of encouraging things on day 1 of spring ball, especially Mario. This is his first time really speaking to the media, since the end of last season. So, Mario said, there are a lot of ways he could have went, but he really said that tight end Elijah Arroyo has been arguably the most impressive guy in the offseason. So I think that's encouraging to hear. We're seeing Elijah, another one of these number changes. And if you guys are interested in the number changes, so definitely check out InsideTheU. There's an article there as well with the newcomers and these number changes to try to keep track. Wesley Bain going from 44 to 4 is number he wore senior year at Miami Central. And then Elijah's going to 8. So, but he stands out at number 8 there. And I thought he looked good. And we've seen this from Elijah. He looks good in drills. He looks good in practices. But for him, and I think we've seen it in games at times too, but this is a big year for him because, last year going through the injuries, he does get back, but he doesn't really regain his form that we've seen from the first couple of years. Really couldn't really get that job back as really that true number 1 tight end. And I think right now, spring is really important for him because, he wants to be healthy and really establish himself as being a top tight end, not just at Miami, but being able to be counted on as one of the more counted on guys in the conference. Miami didn't rank very well last year at the tight end production spot. And Coach Cristobal mentioned they just got to be better. And it's a different thing. So you either got to get them the ball, and also the quarterback's got to get them the ball as well. So they can design some things. Obviously, it's up to the players to get open, as we've seen in Shannon Dawson's offense. But there are definitely some things that they can get going there with helping them out. And I think you will see that because Cristobal, he knows the tight end position. He knows it at Miami. He's coached it at Miami, when he was a younger coach as an assistant guy when he first came through UM. And he's just a guy that understands how it can help the offense. And to me, that's one of the things I'm always looking forward to seeing with an offense is being well-rounded, really having guys that can do a lot of different things. You want your receivers to have different types of receivers. I talk about that all the time, and I think you're seeing that with this group. A quarterback that can do different things. We are now going to see a quarterback that can use his feet in addition to being able to throw the ball, and we've not seen that under Tyler Van Dyke. So you're going to see that dynamic change a little bit too. And then the running back position, you've got your power guys. You want your guys to be able to do different things, going to the perimeter, even catching passes. So I think at the tight end spot, getting them involved, I think is really helpful for the offense, because sometimes a defense can take certain things away and really focus in on certain things. I think a guy like Xavier Restrepo, because of his production, I think a lot of teams are going to focus in on him and really try to take him away from what he's doing out there. And I think that's why it's important for other guys to step up, other position groups like the tight end spot to really step up. So another thing to watch for in the spring, can the tight end position be productive like it has been in years past, unlike what we saw last year? Just wrapping up with some defensive stuff. I did not watch the defensive stuff a lot today because I was focused on Cam Ward, the receivers. I did see some one-on-one, some defensive back stuff, and I think the receivers, certainly in the drills, looked much better than the secondary. And I think that's going to be an area to watch for as well with the spring. Can the secondary step up with the guys that they lost from a year ago, the veterans at safety and definitely corner as well? Can those guys step up? I thought Jadis Richard did a few nice things on some short passes, some breakups. So it was good to see that Jadis kind of stepped in and did there. Touched on Powell earlier, Michal, how he'll step in looking like a nickel guy. So maybe see how he does as well. But I think they were getting beat over the top quite a bit on some one-on-one situations. And again, first day in practice, and we'll see how things go moving forward. But I think definitely secondary has a lot of question marks going into spring ball. And finally, just wrapping it up, Wesley Bain is a guy I was very curious what he had to say. Obviously, when guys have good seasons, I'm always curious to see what they want to do in preparation for the offseason as they get ready for the next year to either do much better than they did, even though they're coming off a good year like Ruben did. And, he said when I asked him about that, some things that he's really working on, really wants to focus on this spring. And he said he was really thinking about it. And he said, with his body size, he wants to make sure, bigger, stronger, faster. And I kind of asked, if that is essentially, if that does get to where he wants to be, or why that's important, essentially how does he see that translate on the field? And he felt like it's going to help him, be quicker off the ball, off the line of scrimmage, and which I thought was interesting, and help with his stamina. Being able to be stronger within a game. So I thought that was interesting to hear him say that, just to recognize that. And I think that's always important for all defensive linemen to really have that mentality, because oftentimes you see all defensive linemen, they can be good in spurts, and sometimes they can't play a lot of plays, but to be able to be out there consistently in a game, play a bunch of plays, and impact the game throughout the game, I think is very important, especially in the fourth quarter. I think sometimes defensive linemen, it can be easier sometimes, maybe early on, you do well, and then you kind of drift as the game goes on. We've seen defensive linemen at Miami over the years fall into that. And I think Ruben really understands the importance of being able to play at a high level as much as possible for all four quarters. So a guy that's hovering around 278, 280 pounds right now, wants to keep the body fat percentage down around 18 right now, but he's a guy, again, he's paying attention to it, certainly wants to be productive. And then kind of just lastly, the defensive tackle position, they bring in a couple guys with some good size. Clark definitely has good size, so that was good to see. And I think they're just kind of bolstering their unit up front there at the interior defensive line spot. So that's all for me today. Again, hopefully able to see, we really don't know. We don't know exactly how much we're going to see at practice. We just kind of show up and we're told how many periods we get, or like in fall practice, we were told, that's it, no more. So we'll see how things go, but hopefully I always like being able to be out here, not just to see from my own personal opinions, but to be able to relay as much quality information as I can to you guys, the big fans. I appreciate your support. Another year of doing this, so I definitely appreciate everybody. So thanks for watching. Definitely drop in the comments below. I didn't touch on every position, but are there some guys, some position units that you guys are very curious about that I didn't touch on? And let me know what you think below, and I'll definitely try to address them as soon as possible. So thanks again, and take care.